We had her. Okay, here's good. Start it up.
Nobody talks. Nobody talks. Nobody talks.
Yes.
This is the Nobody Talks Shidduchim podcast.
Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another infamous and spectacular episode of Nobody Talks Shidduchim podcast. 95, your mental health Getup. Mental health Getup, does that make sense? Where I'm from, it's like the Getup. What's your Getup? Make sense?
Sure.
Okay, we may change it, so we'll see. Mental health is a topic today. Focus on this topic of mental health and other mental health topics, depression, disorders, etc. We're here to chat with David Izso, as the host of Don't Worry About It podcast, and a 8-year dater, 5-year dater, 20-year dater.
I don't count.
Okay, so unknown. But dude, thanks for coming on the podcast. I was gonna say show again.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
And you've been a big supporter from the beginning. Like that's.
Yeah, I believe when you see something that someone's doing that you really enjoy or respect, I think it's important to signal to them, because as somebody who did a podcast, who's doing a podcast, you have to understand like how important it is for people to give you that feedback, because it matters, especially in the beginning, when the early days. It's what drives you to keep going, because the doubt that gets into your head, should I be doing this? Am I saying everything that's right? So even gentlest feedback matters, especially if you can give authentic feedback. So when I saw what you guys were doing, and it hit a little home, especially as a topic, as a guy who's dating and been in the game, you got to show respect.
Feedback is big. Feedback is crucial. I think people conflate like real feedback from like BS feedback, and it definitely has a big way on mental health. So I'll walk you through a little scenario. You're at work, you're trying to do a good job, you're getting a bonus, you're not getting a bonus, you're up for a bump, promotion. You're gonna ask for feedback. I want feedback, give it to me, I want to get better. Great. I think that's a great scenario that depicts like what circumstances would warrant some constructive feedback. Now, in regards to like dating, if you're dealing with a matchmaker, if you're getting set up with friends, whatever the arrangement may be, it's like, here's a little feedback for you, right? Here's a little feedback. I'm not sure if it's, the place anymore for that. Like, what are you going to say? Everyone today really thinks that they're capable and warranted, and they need to always render feedback. And now that I see the kind of effects on the mental health thing, I'm not so sure I'm a fan of it. What are your thoughts?
So when you say like not a fan of it, you mean like in feedback in certain areas, or just like for like, because I think it's actually an interesting point that you made. I think that feedback in certain circumstances can be so crucial and beneficial in a workplace. Hey, your email that you wrote didn't come out like as well. Here are a few tips to do it. That's constructive feedback. That's here's an error that you're doing, and here's actually a way for you to get better at it, not just putting something down. In dating, I think for me at least, I can speak from my own experience, like certain feedbacks that I've gotten just from friends that have set me up. I've never gone through an official shadchan before. I'm not against it, but it just hasn't happened yet. But one of the most annoying things that I found is, there's not really telling you anything that's really helpful. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like, hey, she thought you were really nice, funny, obviously, and she just didn't think you were a good match. And after 1 to 2 dates, when you go through a shadchan, like, that makes sense. Like, but what are you really getting out of that feedback? It doesn't really, it's like, whatever, but it doesn't help. What would help actually is like, hey, maybe you didn't hold the door for her. Maybe you didn't, you didn't get the check fully. I mean, that's something you got to know. But if you didn't know, that's actually constructive feedback that'll help. But like,
these were a little gnarly concerns of ours,
some people just don't know. But in terms of feedback, what are you actually going to get from a shadchan? And when you do get that, are you actually ready to receive that real feedback? You have to really understand, I think, when you're going into anything, what actually is going to help you versus what's going to what you're really willing to receive and what's just going to fly off the shoulder and you won't really deal with.
Yeah, again, I think things could be so misconstrued, like it's a third party thing, and you're also going from like girl to guy, girl to girl. 3 people, 3 parties, never communicated before. There's going to be miscommunication. And I mentioned the gender because it's going to be different what you do from what, you know, the woman is going to be observing. The girl is going to be observing. Such a big thing, you know. I listen to all these podcasts now, and some other things in the Ummah Sa'olam, in the world out there. You really need to like understand that there's a difference from what in dating specifically. I'm just saying in dating, it's not like a marriage thing or a couple thing. Maybe, you know, I'm not the expert at that, but it's just in regards to like the dating, because that I'm very familiar with. You have to understand you're never going to understand the other side. So you just got to play the game, and then when you play the game, you're going to win. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. This friend of mine just asked me, like, hey, you know, I need this, like, my eye's been killing me. I feel like I need reading glasses. So I'm like, oh, you got to go to my boy Freddie, you know, Dr. Freddie. And he, you know, so he's a optometrist. And I told him, I said, I've been going to Freddie for many years, and when I needed my reading glasses, right here, by the way.
It's nice glasses.
Right here. So I remember, like, he didn't want to give it to me because a lot of eye doctors don't want to give you the reading glasses when you're that young. So this guy was like, "Oh, I want to get the reading glasses. I'm just gonna tell him, like, you know, my eyes have been hurting me and this and that." And I said, "No, like, you gotta." I'm like, "Dude, you gotta. Here's a script to tell him. This is what you tell him, because otherwise he's gonna try this. He's gonna try that. He's gonna try many different things because he doesn't want to like wean you on the eyeglasses yet, because for whatever the reasons are." And then you're not going to get it. You're going to have to come back because just say exactly this. And so I'm going to correlate this story here with Freddie and Brandon with this dating stuff. Like, so I think, you know, you're just going to kind of get what could be the worst here, right? What's like the remedy? The negative remedy is that you're going to change. You're going to lose yourself in the feedback. This is what the shadchan says, what the girl says. Not always the case. You know, I don't know. If you go on a date, I said one podcast, like this girl was like watching this guy on the date, and all he was doing was watching the game. I'm like, I think that's appropriate now in hindsight. Obviously, bad move on the guy, but it doesn't mean he's a bad guy.
I think, I think it was of error. It's a judgment of error. If you're taking a girl, you can't be if you can't control yourself, don't take her to a place where the game's going to be on. If that's what you want to do, good. But you owe it to yourself, and you absolutely owe it to her to show her a modicum of respect. And that's good. In my opinion, that's good feedback to know. And if you're the person who gets that feedback and you don't think you did anything wrong, stand by it. I don't agree with it, but stand by it and just be like, okay. But I'm going to continue to still do that. If that's your character and that's what you want to do, I tip my cap to you and just say, good luck with that.
I had, by the way, when I was listening to your pod, I listened to a few episodes, and then I always noticed something really weird, and I always wanted to bring it up to you when we had you on finally, because we've been trying to make this happen for some time. But here, I know so many people who went on your show, on your podcast. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now. I don't think I actually know them. But we hung out at one point in time, you know? Okay. I know Ariella Azaroff, right? I know her. I mean, we've hung out. I want to say we've hung out.
Okay.
We've hung out. We used to have mutual good friends. All right? Great. Yeah, these are all great people. Anyone I would say, I hate that person.
I don't know her personally. I met her. I got connected to her. I said, do you want to come on the podcast? She came on. I haven't really connected with her since.
Well, we should have invited everyone.
Listen, next time.
Nah, it's okay. One-on-one. Okay, Brooke, I know.
Brooke Levine?
Gold.
Brooke Gold.
Yeah, I think we did
Gold.
Gateways one year.
Brooke Gold.
Dude, there's such random people. I'm like, what? Oh, so Brooke Levine, I also know.
Brooke's the best.
I know. We went away Pesach one year. I think she's a brother, Scott.
Yes.
Isn't it crazy?
Where'd you go?
We went. I don't know. I think last go getaways maybe.
Wow, so you're talking like years and years ago.
Oh, 10 years ago.
I've been going on Passover programs. With
Oh, that's where you've seen everybody.
Oh, I know Brooke.
Because
Brooke and I went to camp together.
This is literally the crew.
It's funny because like I got connected to a lot of the people that I've gotten on my podcast, and the interesting thing about what I've built with the podcast and what the whole entire goal was, what if I took, this was back in 2020, so COVID had just happened. It was like the summer. I was like, I had an idea. I'm like, what if I just created a platform? People are willing to talk about mental health if you give them the space. That was my premise. What happens if I give them a safe space, and whatever you want to do with safe space, a place where they can come and talk about their challenges, from anxiety to depression to eating disorders, OCD to just despair, emotions and anything really in between, just to sit and talk. Would they do it? I always believe they would, because I've had conversations with a lot of people in my life. I've always been able to connect with people and to just get to that kind of essence of who they are and what they've been dealing with and create those deep conversations. I said, what if I put it out there? Would people be willing? Would people be willing to do it? And would people enjoy the content? And would people be willing to listen to those honest, raw conversations? And it started out with a couple of my good friends who had I always to this day just reconnected. I was listening back to the first episode. I need a little chizuk, little courage with my own stuff. And I was just listening back to the amazing words he said. And I just texted him. I said, I can't believe that you had the guts to come on and be the first guest. I had other friends that were like, oh, I'll do it. And every time I was like, hey, let's get on and record, they had an excuse. Did they really have an excuse? I don't know. But it's stressful to be the first person to come on and to kind of, in a way, out yourself as having something, whatever it is that you're going to talk about. It's very bold.
To be vulnerable like that, to put yourself out there.
And he did it, and I was like, because of you, I was able to start what I did. I did about, 44 episodes spanning about a year to 2 years.
That's
like
awesome,
a year and a
man.
half to 2 years.
Commitment.
And my best friends have gone on it, and people who heard it reached out to me saying with words of encouragement, but a lot of people just reached out and said, hey, I'd love to come on the podcast. And we've never met. We never met in person. We do it over either Zoom or over Anchor, which is just phone to phone, like not even seeing each other. And to open up and to be that vulnerable, in my opinion, proved the premise that people are starving. Yeah. They're not just willing, they're starving.
Is the majority of your demographic, are they Jewish? Are they millennial? Is it?
I assume so. I assume they're modern Orthodox Jewish people. But if you ever look at I started my podcast through Anchor. If you look at the analytics, it's the funniest thing in the world. Like I have people all over Europe, like 47 countries listening. Do I believe that there are people in Iceland listening to this podcast?
No way.
Not a chance. But if you are,
no ways in like I believe it. Well, first of all, the title's good. It's like don't worry about it.
And the don'ts in parentheses. Because there are certain things you can worry about,
I heard you say that before.
My good friends helped me with that.
I mean,
title.
like it's the slogan. It's the slogan of the show. I know. Yeah. It's important to have like a good slogan. Like that's kind of, I guess, puts in summation the mission. That's in essence of what it is. So mostly Jews, Orthodox daters. I don't know. What are you seeing out there, like in terms of mental health? It's a big thing. It's a big thing. Growing up, thinking about what mental health was. First of all, I never heard of it until probably, I don't want to come off uncouth, but some point, like maybe college for sure. Now it's a ubiquitous term. People use it. But when I was growing up in the Altoheim, it wasn't used, Everyone had a crazy aunt or crazy uncle, and they would be like, oh, they have mental challenges, they're mentally challenged, or, they're depressed, whatever. And it's definitely creeped up more. There's plethora of places to get more information on there. There's a lot of chemical issues. There's issues related to wars. There's obviously there's big relationship to being immigrants. There's a big one of what's it called inbreeding, because it's especially in the Jewish community, you're inbreeding. It's just, the same people marrying the same people. So that's huge. A lot of these things just add up to it. Now, that was my take as a let's say a mental health novice, in the sense of as a practitioner or a podcast host. What about you?
Please, just to disclose, I am not a mental health professional. I'm not credentialed. I'm not licensed in any way. I'm just a person who's dealt with my own mental health issues, with anxiety.
And you've had a lot of conversations with a bunch of actual professionals,
absolutely,
licensed people, et cetera, et cetera.
I've spoken off platform and on platform with people that are mental health professionals, and I've gone to professionals for my own mental health. Been in therapy on and off for a few years, dating back to probably when I was a kid for a little bit, mostly as a pre-college, post-college adult. I'm still in it today. I had a session earlier this week. And if anyone's interested in going to therapy, it's not as scary as it sounds, and it can be very beneficial and doesn't have to be a lifetime subscription, as I really like to stress. People think that the moment you go to therapy, it's like you're signing up, like you're on a constant kind of, I call it a subscription model, where basically you're paying X amount of dollars every week or every 2 weeks, and you're always going to go back, and you may not feel like there's anything tangible that you're getting out of it. And that's important to talk about in therapy as well. You don't have
even
to
like that fear.
Yeah.
Even that, not fear, but just that maybe complacency you may have.
And there's money involved. You're paying somebody for it. It feels kind of weird. It's like there's no, how do you know trust? I think a lot of what comes down to conversation in a lot of, especially in therapy, is trust. It's a very interesting dynamic that's in when you're in a therapist room or a psychotherapist, any mental health professional, because you're paying for a service and they're giving something to you. You're bringing something to them, which is money, and I guess an experience, but you're asking for that in return. So do you trust a therapist to be able to say to you, I can't help you? Because they're human themselves, and they need to make a living. They need money. So what happens, if you hear people that are going to the same therapist for a decade, 2 decades, and I don't know, to me, that's depending on what they're working on. To me, that sounds a little. The
counselor or the therapist, they have a duty and responsibility to, at some point, be able to ascertain whether they can help this person or not. You have to give an answer for that. You gotta cut them loose. I mean, everyone watches I don't know if everyone watches The Sopranos, but everyone in my little coterie, does that. But if you watch The Sopranos, I mean, that was what was the story of The Sopranos? The story is of the second-rate family, which is the mob family, and like literally like a crappy therapist, really bad therapist. She was terrible. Just from having people on, just from going to therapy. This was a very bad therapist. So I think people have a lot of shidduch daters, because I don't want to say just people, but shidduch daters are definitely taken back and, not as compelled as they should to explore, because they are thinking it's a subscription model.
I think you have to be very careful when you're going to therapy. You have to really build trust, and that takes time, right? The first session you go to, you're spending $150, $200, $300, however much you're spending to go to a therapist, and you're just giving them an information of, you don't even know if you work together well. What does that kind of sound like? Like in a parallel, going on a shidduch date. You're spending the time, you're spending the money, you're getting
exactly
ready,
like that,
and you don't even know if you like her. And there's a mutual friend of ours who's coined the term "fire first dates." Yes. Stop going on first dates. That's the holy shid. We both have a lot of respect for, and if you aren't following her, I highly recommend checking out her page.
Shout out to Ahuva.
She is
living the life in Florida.
She is the real one, as they say. But to get back to what I was saying, it's really important to understand that when you're going to therapy, you have to be willing to accept the terms of what therapy is and understand the power dynamic that's involved. You're paying for a service for somebody, and you most of the time will not know a lot about them. Very different than a shidduch date in that sense, where you don't really know about your therapist. In a lot of ways, you can ask them about it, but it's like I've spent many sessions talking to my therapist just about the power dynamic that's here, and trying to find a way for myself to really gain trust with her, to be able to fully open up. It's like, I don't know anything about you. I'm choosing to trust you, but that trust is very hard to get to a place where I can be fully vulnerable. But I'm the one who's also coming to you because I need something from you. It's a very warped, in my opinion, very warped dynamic.
Yeah.
Very weird dynamic. If you spend too much time thinking about it, you'll probably end up having an action. I choose to keep going back, but I'll bring it up from probably quarterly at least, if not every 6 weeks, just to talk about that with my therapist, just about the dynamic. And there are certain times she'll be like, if you want to ask me something, I can't guarantee I'll answer it. But you also have to trust that she's going to tell you the truth, because at the end of the day, she's supposed to be the one who's supposed to help you. So she may be incentivized not to tell me the full truth or not to give me everything. And I'll throw challenge flags. I'll literally I'll just throw bullshit. I'll say bullshit. She'll give me a response. I'll just go, that's bullshit. What do you really mean?
That's good. Well, she'll say that.
I'll say it to her, and I'll tell her, if you don't, I'll tell her, if you're not going to call me out in here, and I'm going to test you.
Yes.
I need to build that trust.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe we should test more.
Or maybe we need to be more trusting. It's
right.
You got to always
right.
I always try and see both sides of everything, and understanding from the therapist how hard it is to be a therapist. I can't imagine being a therapist, and I wanted to go into that profession originally, but how hard it is for them to go on to have all of these clients, all these people they're trying to help, and how painful it must be session after session to maybe not see the progress yet, because a lot of it is a slow, invisible buildup where you're not going to have a breakthrough. I always like to use the analogy of like a television show. My mind always goes to the show 24. Have you ever seen the show 24? Not every episode is going to be the time where Jack Bauer saves the world, and some episodes are going to be very boring, and it can be applied to other television shows where they're just setting up for the first stretch, for the middle stretch, and then for the end stretch. And you kind of know the structure.
It could be anticlimactic.
For sure, and their episodes...
Sometimes it's anticlimactic.
And that was back before, you could just stream a show in 11 hours, but and you had to wait a week, and you just left that episode going, what a waste of time. I just want to watch next week's episode. And I find myself in therapy sessions, and especially in conversations, even with friends, where they'll come to me with an issue or I'll come to them. And sometimes you just have to have those initial middle conversations to get to the important conversation. And I think we need to do a better job as just a society, as people, to appreciate those small moments and how frustrating and painful they can be in the moment. But when you experience the breakthrough and you get to a place where you're good, to look back on all of those moments where you struggled. You commonly hear that in shidduch and dating, right? When people get to the end, right? They get to their engagement, they get to their wedding day, and they talk about it was all worth it. All the pain, all the sorrow, all the breakups, all the tears, all the laughs, all of it was worth it. And it's really hard to see that. It's really hard to see that. Steve Jobs is very famously quoted saying, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back.
I love Steve Jobs. He was really good.
He was an asshole, but he was a genius.
Oh, he was good at he was... did you see the movie? Did you see both of them? Both of them with Ashton Kutcher. That was the better one.
Ashton Kutcher was the better one. Fassbender is by far the better. Oh my god.
So fine. So Fassbender did a better job with the rendition, but I enjoyed the Ashton Kutcher one better. I think because it was the movie. I liked the movie itself better.
Right. Listen,
Michael Fassbender. That was like more about Steve Jobs and his.
If anybody is wondering if you're willing to say what you really mean and not worry about backlash, that is a great take to have, because it is like almost unanimous that nobody likes the Ashton Kutcher movie so bad that they immediately...
Is that crazy? I loved it.
They immediately, like, if you look when that Ashton Kutcher movie came out, think about how quickly they decided we're going to make another one because of how shitty it was. Oh,
interesting. Is that why they made another? Yes. What's his name was in there also? The guy who played Wally.
Wally from Wally the movie?
No,
Wozniak?
Wozniak.
Oh, that was Josh Gad in the Kutcher one.
Josh Gad.
Gad's in the Kutcher one, and then they do Seth Rogen in the Fassbender one.
Seth Rogen. Not a Seth Rogen fan. But Josh Gad was so good in that. He was so... I you know what? I appreciate the sensitivity, though. So for dating, I was just looking up like some Jewish mental health stuff, but there's a lot of stuff here. It's on the rise. It's getting worse.
Listen, we're having
society as well, right? Look, like mental health, public stigma in the Jewish communities. HWW. I don't even know what that website is, but there's a lot of stuff here.
There's no doubt that the communities, the Jewish communities, at least in the modern world, I can't speak to the more yeshivish or the more Hasidic communities because I don't live in them. I didn't grow up in them. I'm not immersed in them. But I will say that in the modern communities, the conversations have been happening for a couple of years, and people are having them. I was asked by my rabbi,
and the Modocs,
my rabbi from Englewood, New Jersey, Rabbi Chaim Pupko, my rabbi.
Oh yeah, he's good.
He is an unbelievable human being. He's a great rabbi, and he's a person I really look up to. It was about
he's a rabbi of the huge shuls. He's got to be good.
He is the rabbi of the shul in Englewood. No shots at the other rabbi. The other rabbaim in Englewood are also unbelievable people. One was my high school rabbi. The other one is another person that I've watched up close and the impact he's had in the community. But Rabbi Chaim Pupko of Avas Torah in Englewood, New Jersey, asked myself and a 17-year-old at the time from my alma mater of SR High School, who also started his own mental health podcast. He asked us to be on a panel.
Both of you. So interesting.
For the shul. There's a video of it on YouTube. There's audio about it on my podcast. And he reached out to both of us. He said, hey, I love what you guys are doing. It's such an important topic. Would you be interested in being on a panel and hosting and being in a conversation with him? And for about a little over an hour, the rabbi and us just had a conversation. And what this kid did at 17 years old at my own alma mater showed how quickly and how fast the conversation has pivoted and how expedited it's gotten to the surface. I went to that same school. I'm now about to be 28. I was 27 26, 27 at the time. He was 17 at the time. Now I assume he graduated high school. And he's started a podcast at the same school I was. That would never have happened. Nobody knew about podcasting. Nobody knew how to do it. And he's having conversations with kids his age, shorter form, just about all these different things. Kids are talking about it. And that is unbelievable. The conversations have started. I don't think we're ready to be, I don't think institutions like schools and shuls are even ready to and parents, most importantly, I don't think we're ready for how
parents are catching up. Like that's the big thing. Parents are really, they are behind. They're reacting. They're very reactive to it. They're very reactive
very well
to
said,
it. I think just on a on a religious or spiritual level, because I am one of those people who are just born in between the two generations. A lot of people like that. You know, I got a lot of millennial Gen Z in me, but then I also have a lot of I think baby boomer, or was
how
it,
young are you?
No, one after that. One after that. No, millennial is
I don't know how old you are.
You're a millennial also.
I guess.
I'm 31.
Okay. So you're 31. I'm 20, about to be 28. Like we're in the same.
So I really get to understand both sides, and they're very reactive to it. They just don't know how to handle it. It's so over their head, and that's fine. I totally get it. I can't have any animosity towards them for not understanding and not getting it. But notice how I can have no animosity and be very respectful about them not understanding it. But if you ask that, their side, oh, it's all in your head. You're the generation that's gonna cause us pain and suffering and trouble and all this stuff. I'm like, you guys aren't worth anything. Just things like that. And it's like, why would you say these things? Like, is this how God wants us to talk to each other? That's sinas chinam right there. Like, no, that's not sinas chinam. That's not. No, that's not it. But it is. It is. All this stuff kind of hides in these little shadows of what, it hides itself, these things. So that's kind of where I was. I had so much to comment we were saying before, but it was so much there with the therapist. So it's interesting that you're saying kind of like to test the therapist. Definitely. I think that's a really good thing to maybe do, or at least have a conversation like, and it is tough to have, like, hey, I'm a little uncomfortable with you, or can we mix it up? Like, I'm not like really getting what I need to get out of this. Like, that's a big thing.
You need to be your own advocate, and that's very scary, especially when you're going to therapy, especially if you're going to therapy in crisis. Because a lot of people's first time in therapy,
it's crisis. Yes,
you're not going for like an annual. Yeah,
checkup. I was dating a girl, and we were in a serious shidduch we were total shidduch daters, total shidduch dating, her and I, and yeah, we're like at that engagement point, but I wasn't proposing, and she was all over on top of me with that. And she was like at that point just living vicariously through the proposal. Like, that was her whole life. That wasn't even happening. So we were both in a fantasy land. And let's go for couples counseling. You know, I'm like couples count. Like what am. But I did it, and that was it. Like never knew what I was missing right away. I think after like one session, I was like, wow, this is the real stuff. Especially with a couple. I think especially with a girlfriend. Especially with a shidduch dater. I think you know, maybe that should be like every first date. Just it's an shidduch date should just be you and the girl or the guy, and you go to a therapist. That should be the first date.
But isn't that what the more like to the right, I don't know if it's Hasidic or ultra-Orthodox, I was just learning about it. They do like a meeting of the families, and they put them in the Basho. Yeah, I just learned that term recently.
Basho, yeah.
Wow, like crazy, and on the surface, like you hear, but it's a crazy concept. Rabbi David Beshevkin of the 1840 podcast. I don't know if anyone's listened to that.
Yeah, we have some cross audience probably.
His series on what he just completed on dating was the most profound podcast series I've ever listened to.
You liked his stuff?
Unbelievable the way that he showcased all the different communities and how they date, and to like multiple episodes, just talking about the raw nature of it, having people open up about it. For me, someone who's single and looking to find my better half, I found to be, especially as a 28-year-old who lives on the Upper West Side, and we can get into what that means.
What does that? No, David, tell us what that means.
There's a lot of acceleration in terms of timeline when you go to the Upper West Side. The Upper West Side's a modern Orthodox community, and it's kind of like sticking all the Jews in that same demographic and just saying, "Mate, go for it. Find the other person and get hitched, get married."
Survival of the fittest, huh?
And it's a very weird social setting. It's the weirdest environment that I've been in since I realized how weird co-ed modern Orthodox high school was. Where you stick.
That's a statement.
No, I loved the high school that I went to.
I went to co-ed, and then I was living in the I'd say New York modern Orthodox lifestyle, which would like kind of encumber like Westchester, Manhattan, parts of Jersey, Connecticut, and then I went from that all the way to New York, like from quote unquote from life, which it like encumbers 5 towns, Brooklyn, Queens, what else? You know, that kind of lifestyle. And there's a difference. There's a big difference between the two.
There's a lot of differences between all these communities.
Even in the communities, everyone has like their own micro communities, but that's kind of because other places have been closing up and everything's been, consolidating, gentrifying, etc. But if you just compare it at a very base level, like that's the 50-50 split. Like, oh, are you going to New York? Let's say you're in Cleveland. You're in by the way, I heard Cleveland's picking up, by the way, in the Jewish community in Cleveland.
It's getting more expensive from what I've heard, and it's much cheaper.
Everything.
Listen.
So like if you're going to New York from Cleveland, yeah, like you would, you would kind of like fit into this. Which community are you going into, or like which observancy are you going for?
Where do you want to be? That's the big question.
That's what you should be asking. Is like, where do you want to be? Certainly, I neither or. Like, send me to the wall, Jon Snow.
I'll put it this way: anytime I'm in a room with the more religious people, I feel like I'm the least religious. And anytime I'm with like people that are not so observant, I become the most religion. I find that to be in politics as well. Anytime I'm in a room with hard right conservatives, I'm the liberal in the room, and every time I'm with the leftists, I become the semi right wing guy. And it's just, I find that with religion, all I want to do is be with people that are doing a modicum of like being an observant Jew with compassion and kindness and acceptance of people that may not be where you are.
Just being a good person. I think people forget about that.
Listen, in the Torah, my dad always says this to me, and it's one of those, I didn't realize it as a child, and I've come to understand now. Like, think about it. What do they say? Just ben adam lechavero. Like, it's as simple as that, how important that is, and how quickly in certain scenarios we'll just chuck it away because we disagree, because it feels, we don't like to admit it, but like sometimes when you start bashing on someone or hating someone, it kind of feels a little good. And we don't like that. It's scary. It's very scary. Can you get mad at somebody? And
just got bashed on today. I made a comment to someone. Something about bris milah, mohels, So I told him, I said, like the best place to start obviously is going to Israel and going to some of the Arab villages, and you practice on Arabs getting bris milas.
Jesus.
At 13. And he's like, "You're the biggest liar I've ever heard in my life." I'm like, first of all, you're a frum Jew. Okay, so you can't you can't say those things like I'm a liar. Like, now just because you like have a very small, closed-minded, or like just you don't have access to all the information out there. I'm like, just ask me where I heard that from, or you just say you didn't know. So, but it turns out, I told him, I said, I've had like a few rebbeim in yeshivas that I went to. I'm like, I've been to a dozen yeshivas. Most of my rebbeim were all moels. And yeah, they were like, that's where they practice. They would go to, they go to Israel. They like get certified by one of these rabbinical councils, one of these little based-ins. And that's how they practice. They go to the Arab villages.
Wait, we got to clarify. Is this forced circumcision or is this elective circumcisions that they're doing?
This is
because one of them
I don't know how elective it is because
one of them
they're being forced.
One of them I'm in the sense of like where like they're doing it because like it's their religion the same way we got circumcised at 8
exactly
years old. Okay.
Same thing, right?
Because one of them I was about to say I have a big problem with if you're just forcing.
Oh right,
Arabs
they were
to
just
get
finding.
circumcised.
They were just finding. No.
That I'm anti.
They were just like going. They needed to practice, so they were like just shooting up.
No. I want it on the record that I'm anti that forced circumcision. If you choose to get circumcised,
I think it was. It was a choice. It was a choice. They prefer the rabbis. I mean, look, 12 years or 13, whatever, 20 years. I don't know, however long I was in yeshiva. That's the one thing I really remember very well. So anyway, I just told the guy. So, but the point of it was, parenthetical point there was like, I think people, people just are lacking empathy. I think that's a very big thing. People are lacking empathy. And I think there's a generation out there kind of doesn't really, they've had it hard. Children of immigrants, children of Holocaust survivors, children of refugees, and Sephardic Jews, not even Holocaust survivors, they fled the Shoah. They had to escape countries, persecution, religious persecution, right? So they had to come to the country. They had to grow up very fast, et cetera, et cetera. You have that over, 30, 40, 50 years. This is where we are today, where there's a very sensitive generation.
Listen, there's a segment, I'm, again, not co-signing this, not saying I disagree with it either. I'm just going to throw it out there. It's something that I heard that I found to be very interesting and made me really think. A person was asked who grew up in grew up in real poverty. And he said he got older and they asked him, talking about like depression. He goes, "That's a luxury." He said, "We didn't have that luxury. I didn't have the luxury to be depressed."
Whoa, dude. Profound. Really?
And I want anyone who's like,
I totally get that.
There's probably two sides. One going, "Oh my God, that makes a lot of sense." The other person like, "How could you say that?" All that. I'm not saying you should agree or disagree. I'm just saying take some time, marinate in it, and really think about it. It's not saying anything about if you're bipolar or schizophrenic or have a mental disorder in that sense. Said I didn't have time. I didn't have the ability to be depressed. I had to put food on the table for my family. We had to do this or we would not have survived. And if you think about, it can really resonate in a lot lot with people. It's
dude, there's a whole litany of that.
You have to when people.
I totally get what this guy was saying. And it's so true. I mean, I think that, and that's what I'm kind of trying to promulgate or advocate for, which is like we have an opportunity now. Like this is, and this is I think in more of a religious context that hey, this is what God is giving us as a blessing now, right? Because you have to look at that if you're a religious person. If you're Heimish, if you live, you're within your 4 amos, how Hashem runs the world. Everything's for a blessing, right? So this is perfect for what this guy's saying. Like, hey, God is giving us an opportunity now to have this these mental health issues and try to live with them and work them out. It is what you're saying is, and that's a very interesting way to take it. Very, very, very unique take on it. Very unique.
And I don't believe that mental health just started in the last 100 years.
Yeah,
100 years. If you
for sure.
There are arguments.
No way. There's no way.
There are commentaries and arguments to be made that if you look and you can infer from things that happen in the Torah that you can clearly diagnose it today if you put today's lens on it. And I'm not saying I believe in it. I'm not saying I don't. But if you put that lens on it, you could say that person probably. There's no way Moshe. I mean, Rosh Rabbeinu. When you in this past week's parsha, you don't think that guy had anxiety?
Oh.
You read through it.
Bro, how do you not?
He ran. I mean, literally ran away. He got out. Who amongst us hasn't been in a way less stressful situation, hearing from God directly?
Totally. See, I love what you're saying there. See, I resonate with Moses. I really do, with Moshe Rabbeinu, and I shuls and like from people. And not to bash either way. Everyone knows. I love everyone equally. I love bashing everyone equally. But I think so many Jews focus on picking apart. Oh, this is what Moshe did wrong. This is what Yaakov did wrong. Dude, shit. Oh, no, it's in the name of the Torah. I'm like, dude, no. Like, no, let's first of all, I don't want to go there. Who am I to say such things? Okay, if we're learning, great. But like they had those struggles. I think the real thing, especially when we're talking about mental health, that you could pull from this is that they struggled too. Moshe got scared. Like he had anxiety. He got scared, whatever it was. Or maybe he actually realized that, oh man, my mental health isn't there yet. Like for me to lead the Jewish people, I have to go and really work on myself. Why can't it be that? And like not just look at it in a derogatory way.
Moshe Rabbeinu,
powerful stuff.
Moshe Rabbeinu needing to run away is why he was fit to lead the Jewish people. Anybody who I really believe that anybody who runs to power is not fit to wield it.
Bingo.
I don't want anybody who wants that power, that control. Love it. And again, take into context with Moshe Rabbeinu. From God himself, how many of us have ever said, especially as kids when you're like growing up and like trying to understand what God is and what religion is, I said, if God just give me a sign and I'll do it, right? If God spoke to me, how could I, right? Think about with Yetziat Mitzrayim. With Yetziat Mitzrayim, they saw all the miracles after the plague and how quickly they forgot about God. They knew they had it direct. So for us, I think there's a lesson there for self-compassion.
Yeah.
People years, centuries, millennium ago had a direct connection to God and still sinned. The Chet HaEgel. Like these were the people that saw the miracles. They had the stories. How quickly they were able to forget. So if they forgot, listen, we should always strive to be the best and to be the greatest. But when you fall, is it beneficial to bash yourself, to destroy yourself down? Is that going to get you to where you're going to go? And I need this more than anybody, almost anybody I know, because I am very negative self-talk, very negative internal monologue, and I am the harshest of critics on myself, and I don't hold myself to the same standards I do other people. So I am preaching to my own choir here.
Well, it's good that you're perceptive and aware of that, which is big, man. Big.
It's a blessing.
Kudos.
It's a blessing and a curse.
It is. It's exactly, yeah. That's what Adrian Monk would say. It's a blessing. It's a gift and a curse because you're aware of it, but that's, I think, part of the journey. You kind of just got to be aware of it, acknowledge it, accept it, and one day you'll get there where it's passively you don't even realize that for the good it's happening for the good. Like I'm kind of dealing with this or not. I love talking Torah, as you know, but I wanted to kind of pivot back into the dating because I think this is a dating podcast. So how to move through mental health issues in dating. All right. I'm sure probably a bunch of things come to mind, so I want to hear like what you have to say, but also I'll just throw in if you need a little anchor, like what are some things to make sure that you can date with the mental health issues.
I think it's important to validate your own issues when going into dating, to understand where you are and where you want to go. If you're somebody who suffers from generalized anxiety disorder, or someone who has a high level of anxiety already as their base, that may never go away, and it may never need to go away, but you can learn to live with it. And I think that there's an advantage when dating to somebody who's self-aware and already has gone through that, as opposed to think about how hard it would be. And I've spoken to people, friends and other people that have gotten connected to me, just to talk about mental health. Again, I'm not a professional. I'm open to having conversations with people, and people will get connected and come to
You're
me.
an advocate.
I don't put any of those titles.
You don't even want to. Okay, podcast, mental health podcaster.
No, I'm just a platform for people to talk, and I'm willing to. I always have an open. I'm always willing to have an open dialogue. But to circle back, I think it's important to understand the difference between, imagine people who are dating, they get married, and one day somebody just cracks out of nowhere. Yeah. They just break. They have a mental breakdown, and I'm not talking about a bad day that a lot of people have. I'm talking about had to be institutionalized. Their entire world shattered. Yeah. They didn't sign. They'll make the argument, I didn't sign up for this, and there was no warning. There may not have been any warning signs. They may not have had any family history. They may not have even known that they were even susceptible to it. It's a lot of things can happen. So I think when people are so against dating people who will talk openly or have gone through depression, segments of depression, bouts of depression, or have high levels of anxiety. Those are people who are still battling through it, and for the most part, and unless you're just initially going through it, you kind of by trial and error, you learn what works for you. You learn how to get through it. Could be through breathing exercises, exercise, diet. Could be could be CBD. Could be medication if you're working with a psychologist or
psychotherapy.
Psychotherapy, and
right. So medication, psychotherapy. Yeah. Psychedelics.
Listen, I'm very interested in psychedelics.
We were in that conversation, the shid class. That was great. Like, I learned a lot about that.
I've never done psychedelics. I'm not against psychedelics. I'm in the part of now I'm learning more about psychedelics. Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever do them, but I definitely haven't. And there's certain ones that I may be more prone to do, not prone to do, but it's all for the benefits of healing.
It's less stigmatized for me. I don't want to be I don't want to sound like my parents, who would say, "Oh my God, what do you drugs?" But like, there's so much information out there on psychedelics that I would separate them from like real drugs, from psychedelics, And I'll just say that obviously there's a lot more to be said about them. Joe Rogan talks about it a lot, and I was watching some show on Showtime that this was like 10 years ago, and the guy's like, "This is a cool dude." And he's like, "Oh yeah, gonna do a psychedelic retreat this weekend." I'm like, what?
This guy's a quack. I used to be this guy's a quack. Now you hear somebody did psilocybin, which is magical
I don't know
mushrooms.
What that is. Oh yeah,
psilocybin
okay.
is mushrooms. Is
mushrooms,
the,
mushrooms. Yeah,
the
Joshua Tree episode in Entourage.
The greatest.
Hello. Yeah,
the greatest,
victory.
They don't make shows like Entourage anymore,
dude. I'm on my like 4th Entourage run right now. Yeah, like I do it on the weekend. It is such a good show. It's so apropos because this Entourage show, now I could actually watch it, and I'm the same age as them.
Right.
And I'm at the exact same place in life. Exact same place and I can relate to everyone. Except for Turtle, I could totally relate to E.
Right. E is the relatable character in the show.
But I relate to all of them. Because Johnny Drama, I'm Johnny Drama too. I'm so Johnny Drama and him. I'm definitely not Vince. I'm definitely not Turtle. But I used to relate to Vince and Ari Gold. So through the years, you will just learn how to connect and relate, and also kind of like figure out which character you are, and that's interesting. That's a whole psychology itself.
Identifying with television and movie characters is a dangerous game. We all do it because we all love.
So,
we get addicted
so I'm
to
not.
It.
I'm only mentioning it. The identifying it because I saw some of the issues that they were having, and I was just in the past, and I would laugh. I'd say, "Oh, it's fun." Eric can't keep a girl, Johnny can't keep a girl, Johnny can't keep a job. But really, when I'm telling you, when you get to certain ages, dude, it hits you. You really are. Those are real life problems. Those are real life problems. Now happens to be in the show. It's just there are celebrities in there. Right. That's the only difference. But I am relating to the character. Like I think at one point Johnny Drama's thinking like, he's trying to get this new condo.
Right.
He needs to move. He has to get a condo, and he just falls in love with this like place in Beverly Hills 90210.
Can't afford it.
He can't afford it. Remember that? He has to take the mayor out for a date. But the mayor, he has to hook the mayor up with the date. So, but the point is that now I could relate to that. I'm like, do I spend the money? Do I spend the extra money going to debt on myself? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. You know why? Because especially in the Jewish community, it's really prevalent for people to put decisions based off of real negative places of where they're coming from. My mother told me, the community told me, my rabbi told me, my parents told me. Normal people like don't have that. Normal people do not have that. What did he do in the show? He's like, I'm a king. I can't treat myself like this. And he got himself the apartment.
Right.
I mean, I think how many like daters would do that? I never did that. I never did that when I started to work, when I was shidduch dating. I'd always go to the cheaper restaurant because I was always thinking money, where to spend, budget. I'd always consider those things.
Do you live at home? Do you get an apartment?
Oh yeah. Oh, I was at home for many years. Many years, dude. I finally moved out, and these things have to be taken into consideration. I think overwhelmingly, girls see that in a guy, and if he is like out of the house young, treating himself, living the right way, they love it. When you're younger, when you're older, it's different stuff.
It's interesting because the things that you'll accept when you're younger, and I wish we had a woman's perspective on this topic, just because for me, we're two guys. We're only the guy side and the dynamics.
We'll get the girl side another time.
And the guy, I'm just saying in the sense of like, when you're a woman and you're dating, especially like, let's say you're young in modern world, like you're dating 22, 23, and I have good friends that got married at like that. That got married at that young age.
That age. Probably mostly all of them.
The guy's living at home and not financially dependent and not financially independent. He's not paying for anything. The parents are paying for basically their entire lives.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And the guy's living at home, not a problem. The guy's now 26, living at home because economically it makes sense. Becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Depending on if the woman is younger, they may be more susceptible and like okay with that because they're dating other guys. It's like whatever. But the older you get, even if it's financially, there's something there that it can seem immature. It can seem like why can't they live on their own? But you can rationalize both sides, and I think that's where it's super.
You can rationalize both sides.
I'm pro getting out of the home. I think you got to live. You got to learn to live your life as an adult with responsibilities.
At some point, you have to. But the thing is, it's got to be pushed younger. There's got to be pushed younger, like BMG. Ever heard of BMG?
No.
Okay, so BMG is the yeshiva in Lakewood. And it's the derech, it's the route that most of Lakewood has taken up until probably like maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Now they're different mahalachs, they're different kind of hashkafas to kind of, I don't know hashkafas, but mahalach. I don't know what mahalach is in English, but
I don't know what it means in Hebrew.
It's funny. I can't explain it either way, but I know what it means.
Yeah.
Like the style of religiosity there. And like I've had a bunch of girls on from Lakewood on the spot, and they're different now. They're just not doing it that way. But the point of it is that just this overall point here is that I think in this context here where you're mentioning whether the guy's at home, whether the guy's living in his house because it's feasible, or he's not living in his parents' house, it's all the mindset. So the guy who's like spending on himself, happy, excited, and all those things, I think a girl's going to sense that. And the same thing, a guy with a girl. Like when I go out with 29, 30, 28 even year old girls, and they're living in their parents' basement, it's almost a DOA. Because I'm like,
it's fundamentally,
I'm like,
it's unattractive.
When are you going to grow up? Because it's true. Because I've been there. Because I was living at home till an age that, like even at that age, I was like not happy with, like, I don't know what I was, 25, 26 at that point. Like I was living at home.
It's different if you're in between apartments, but if you've made the conscious decision, you're living home for like, and you're like,
right. No, I was literally living at home.
You're going home because you're like struggling and you just need to be closer to family. There's again, the word compassion. We have it. We need to have it. We have to understand. And what we need to do a better job is of giving people the space and the ability to explain themselves. If you get I just learned this term actually. I'm gonna show off and use it. If you get red, am I using that correctly? Sorry.
Dang,
When it
yes.
comes to like Lakewood and when it comes to these terminologies,
you get red, yeah.
I'm
REDT, I think.
Yeah, I'm illiterate when it comes to like Lakewood, Tom's River.
You're a shidduch illiterate.
I really am.
Flatbush, you're familiar with.
I've heard of Flatbush, but again, I grew up in England.
Have you
New
heard
Jersey.
of what's that? The Landau's. You heard of Landau? Okay, we're gonna go.
I had a Rabbi Landau.
No. So there's Landau's. Yeah. Okay. These are we gotta. You know what? We gotta come up with a list on the show of all these like
Needed crib
awesome Jewish jargons and an argot and classic familiar. Landau's is the Minion Factory in Flatbush.
Got it.
That's a good word to know. You know, BMG got to know.
BMG. Yeah,
are you like converting to like the black hat community? Like what's the deal here, Dave?
No. I'm not converting to a black hat community. I wouldn't look good in a black hat. I've already been. You know, I don't look good in hats.
I think you'd look good in a hat. I think.
My friend, I remember when I went to yeshiva for a couple of years. We went to Rashid, commonly known yeshiva in I guess the modern world. I don't know about in the Lakewood world, but
they know of Rashid actually. I feel like they do, but they don't know specifically what the name is.
Like a lot of my friends that we went there, especially in our second year, they started getting black hats, and we, as a joke, when we were in Mayor Sharm, like we got like the Borsellino hats, but not like the black. They got the actual baseball cap that said Borsellino on it. It's like, here's my black hat. Like that. Like that's the closest I'd ever get to wearing a black hat today. Things can change, but I've never felt like I belonged in a certain community. I've always liked to find in different communities my own niche of people that I relate to. Especially religiously as I came into my own. I grew up modern Orthodox, Shomer Shabbat, Shomer Kosher completely. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's how I plan on living my entire life and growing in a community that can have that. But in terms of like finding somebody who's willing to fit into that model, they can come from any world. You have to be able to show respect and give people, I think it's super important to give people the ability and the space to showcase themselves. Somebody who, especially listen, women have it so much harder than guys. I didn't understand it to one of my best friends from grade school. She's to this day one of my favorite people in the world. She said simple math. Guys will, for the most part, guys will date younger.
Yeah.
They may date a little bit they'll date like some guys will date super younger. Some will date like -3 and will only go up like this. They will only date a girl as old as their own age, depending on how old they are.
100%. 100.
Girls,
totally, dude. I'm totally getting it now.
For girls, they don't want to date younger. A lot of them won't date younger, and if they do, it won't be more than one year, maybe 2 years max. So it's just a numbers game. It's just a math problem.
Yeah. I would definitely concede on that end. Like, just the fact that like you have to consider they can't really date younger. No problem. Anything else?
They choose not to.
It's
a choice.
They can't. I would say they can't. It's a choice, but like
if the guy's not willing to date her, then it's not
exactly.
Her choice.
Like that's the thing. That's the thing there. The guy's really not gonna want at 27. I was thinking like 30. I could go out with a girl 30. And now like I'm 31 and I'm thinking I don't know if I go out with a girl 35 because I got to have a baby right away.
Yeah, no, by the way, those are real,
that's a must.
Those are real concerns.
Now I say, hey, if I go to, dude, if I'm at a wedding, if I'm at an awesome, you just told me Englewood wedding. If I'm at like an awesome Englewood wedding, bro, like, Rabbi Pup goes like, hey, this is Dasi. I'm like. And she's, like 5 years, 6 years older than me.
But you hit it off?
Yeah, we hit it off. Yeah, no problem.
Then becomes a problem. Listen, there are issues.
But I don't want to see it. I don't want to concede, though. But, it's literally, this is the complication here. It's 51% girls have it hard, 49% guys have it. That's it. Meaning, like, it's 51-49. I'm giving that they have it harder, but by very little because it just all sucks. It all sucks.
Listen, if you're the girl
who made the choice, like it's a girl's world now,
Is it?
It's a women's world. Women have choices.
Women, thank God, do have choices. Very pro women having choices to do.
Just in terms of like dating, in terms of dating.
Listen,
and this is the stock that's out there. So I think at every point, every time, and by the way, one thing I learned, I listened to Bashevkin's podcast, by the way, which I skimmed through. Because just had a lot on the stack, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but he basically found that because he did like real studies. He's a PhD.
He had a guest
right?
on it.
And he had a guest.
He had a guest who was a PhD who studied the shidduch crisis.
Right. And they found was that there's also, aside from the age gap thing like you're mentioning, the two causes. The one cause is obviously this age difference that, you can't go out with anyone younger for a girl. But also is that as the guys got older and stopped dating, I'm sorry.
They got less religious.
Exactly.
That is
and and women would stay or get more religious. That was the problem. That's it.
But that's the part.
Or the error, or whatever.
The women end up suffering because as the men get older, they either become less, and they're staying religiously the same. Why that is may just have to be with just things that men have to do in terms of minyanim 3 times a day, putting on tefillin every day, learn, like a lot of women want guys to learn every day.
That's why I'm trying to but that's why I'm I advocate for it. I promulgate for it. I think vociferous is the word. Vociferous. I'm vociferous about it. Vociferous. I'm very vociferous about that. You have to be, dude. If a guy's over 30 and he's going to minyan 3 times a day, and he's going to learn twice a day, and he's like the most machmir, strictest from guy.
Who's paying the bills?
It's not going to be like a fairy tale, because it means he's going to be really strict about. But I want to bring a TV in, and and I don't always want to. I want to wear pants around the house, whatever the stuff is, whatever the nuances and the minutia. And I've had girls, dude. They had to wait. Girl, just I think 2 months ago, girl I dated years ago, she was strict. She was machmir to the T's.
This is what you're talking about. What
and she
wanted.
held out, but you know what, dude, she's 36 now. She held out. Good for her. Credit is due, and I'm not getting into this good or bad decision, but you have to be ready to live with those
consequences. Isn't the word?
I was like,
I know.
With that outcome,
correct.
With that outcome, and I think guys kind of it hits us, and we say, you know what, the consequences are there. Because it's a consequence for us. Because as we get older, we get a little bit more all over the place. We want to try things. We want to do things. We want to live different. Or we really get segmented in our own ways. I think that's probably the worst part. But I do that. I'm
it's hard. Listen,
all over. I just want to be a Shrek. I just want to be Shrek.
I'm jealous of people that are in the more stricter Jewish communities in the sense of dating, where it's. I think arranged marriages are very interesting. I'm fascinated by them.
They're awesome.
But then again,
think about it. I got no effort, put it in.
There's a lot.
I can lower your headphones by the way.
There's
which one are you? Is that you?
3.
Is it lower now?
Yes.
Okay. Is that better?
No, it's not the headphones. It's the just fit.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
It's not the level of noise, but
we're all part of the same clade. That's basically what I really want to say. The same clade, group of organisms.
Listen,
at the end of the day,
we're all men and women we're all in this together. You need us, we need you
together.
It's facts. It was true back then. The Wildcats needed to all get together, and they did, and they won.
But where are you? So you're on the Upper West Side. So you're in it. Okay, I lived on the Upper West Side. 8 months, got out.
I'm in it.
I missed my car. That was it. I missed my car, and that's what I like. Right after this podcast, I'm gonna grab a cigar and I'm just gonna drive in my car for an hour.
And I'll be getting on the LIR for a long time, and
I'll drop you
off. And but the Upper West Side, I'm technically I live in it, but I opt out of a lot of it.
Okay, yeah, I hear that. No, that's
and it's not necessarily a good thing. I need to be putting myself out of my own comfort zone more often. I find it very hard to find I have a good group of friends there, but I find it very hard to navigate it, especially as you start to get older. Like when I moved in a little over 4 years ago, in my 4th year on the Upper West Side, it's you go to the same shul and you see all the people, and you get when you moved in, you knew the people that were 3 to 4 years older than you. You're like, oh, they're older than me, and then you become that person.
Yeah,
very surreal, and but there are so many great people, so many great people, and by living on the Upper West Side, in terms of I said earlier, you got to with guys not willing to be able to date younger. From my own experience, I think a little bit more than 50% of the girls that I've dated have been older, and by older I mean at least a year, some 2. One woman I was 26, and she was I think 30. And my friend, but one of my man. It was my best friend's. One of my best friend's wives just had a suggestion. She said, just go out with her, and I take her word very seriously. Like she's like family to me. Her son, they have a son. Like he's like family to me. Like they're like she's like just go for it. And we both went out, and we were both like at the end of the day, like we didn't say it straight up, but like the age thing was a problem. Like it just was a problem.
It was. You felt it.
It wasn't like
good anything. For you for trying, dude.
There's nothing
really.
That and the sad part is I can't speak for what she thought about me. But when I go on a date and it's 2 hours of continuous easy conversation, it's not a bad date. It's almost never a bad date.
That's gonna get really hot, by the way. So I'm just letting you know, like it might shake.
It's all right.
Put it up the water here so people can see you.
And I've dated girls that were like or a lot older than me, and I haven't dated girls that are much younger than me. I've always tried to. It's just a thing that I've had. Too young just feels like we're just in different places in life. And as I get older,
give it 2 more years. Because I was the same way. I only dated girls my age and a little older, maybe like within a year younger, and then I met younger girl, like 27. I was like 3 years difference. And then it kind of just kept on stretching. And then I totally get the, 10-year difference thing,
I mean, I can't do
so 10 years. Sorry, chicas out there. Like, I know it sucks, whatevs. I can't relate because I can't go out with a younger girl.
But the funny thing about these rigid things that we say, like for me, it was +2, -3. That's what I would go, is that if you're at a wedding or at an event and you meet somebody, you don't know how old they are, and you hit it off, and you find out that she's, for me, -4 years, but we had a great time and they're both interested, like, of course I would go out. If I didn't go out, it would be silly.
Want some more hot water, by the way?
I'm good. Thank you. Very kind.
I'm a great host now.
You are.
I'm actually, I'm not just the titular host. I actually move around and
you studying for the SATs with this vocabulary? You have a great vocabulary.
Thank you. I have word of the day. I get word of the day, and I learn words,
Growing.
Yeah.
It's important. Listen, in dating and in life, there are a lot of similarities to things that we can be doing. It's like, how hard are you really working? Like, how many people? Like, for me, I haven't put that much effort. Like, I don't ever sit back at night and go, "Why am I still single?" I'm pretty confident I know exactly why I'm still single. It's because I'm not putting myself out there enough. I'm not working with all the avenues.
I see that I would disagree with. I think
for me, I know it.
I would disagree. And you want to know what? You're single because literally, God, right now you got to be single. That's it. I don't think there's anything you can do. And let me just take you out of it because I don't want to be abrasive or anyway.
No, you can be.
But with me. Dude, I've done everything. I've done everything to get into a relationship. So it's not me. And I've done the hishtadlus. I'm doing it. I'm still doing it. There's just a place and a time, man. That's it. 40 years in the desert. We were just talking about Mitzrayim. That's 40 years in the desert. There always has to be barren women, barren men, single women, people who have disabilities. Like there always have to be people like this, always, and that's what I tell people in the pod. Like people,
you've earned that. You've earned that right. To compare the two of us together is a disservice to you, and it's not. And it's also giving me credit that I did not earn and that I do not deserve. If you've really done hishtadlus and bitachon, right, work and faith,
bachelor party bitachon last episode. There I was.
If you've done the hishtadlus, and then it becomes you can if you can have that faith and bitachon and Hashem and say it's just not meant to be right now. But only if you're doing that work. But if you're someone like me who isn't exhausting many of his options, has been picky, accused of being picky at times.
But see, let me ask.
If you're not on the app, there's so many resources. You work.
Well, let me ask you like this. Let me ask. Okay, fine. So let's say. So let's take the shadchanim as an example, right? Okay, so. You went to co-ed school, right?
Co-ed middle school, co-ed high school.
Okay, so right off the cuff, right off just that, no shadchan's really going to want to work with you.
You do realize there are modern Orthodox shidduchim,
right? Meaning like a matchmaker is going to want to work with you.
What's the difference?
Meaning they're modern.
I'm illiterate in this language.
No, meaning they're modern Orthodox. So a modern Orthodox shadchan will for sure want to work with you. A yeshiva shfrum shadchan, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, no, I wouldn't go to that store.
If you,
I wouldn't go buy Chalav Yisrael milk because I don't consume Chalav Yisrael products.
Exactly. So like that's what I'm trying to give the analogy here is that if your time to get married and to do things like your time is your time, it's going to happen. It's there. It's set. Whether you go to the shadchan, whether you go on the dating apps, whatever you're going to do, it's all mindset. If your mindset is like, I'm going to accept just whatever happens, I'm going to for sure put myself out there, or maybe not put myself out there, maybe just work on myself or just take care of myself. And I'll get to the finish line at some point. So like, take it like this, right? You're on a dating app. You're trying to pick up girls. You're going to be your genuine self.
One, right? We're looking for one, right?
You're trying to pick up one, right? You're trying to pick up your wife. Let me rephrase. You're trying to pick up one girl to go out with. Dude, you know how many factors like have to go into that? Have to go into the fact that she's in a good mindset, you're in a good mindset. You know what to say. She was a good day. You both had a good day. You're both able to understand each other text messaging. It's literally at a godly level. There's no other way to describe it. How can I say? Because thousands of guys who contact us, they've tried it and it just fails and fails and fails, or some of them have had success.
Right. Or maybe you need to switch up your approach.
So
but you only earn that right after you've exhausted your options. That's the only point that I'm making. So yeah,
exactly. So once you get to, I think that's what like 30 is, because 30 are probably for an Orthodox girl. Orthodox girl meaning could be yeshivish or modern. They by the time probably like 27 for them, 26. They've exhausted all routes. They've done everything. They've been with shadchans, they've been with matchmakers, they've been J-Swipe, J-Date, saw you at Sinai. They've been on everything. And it's just not that, and from my opine view, it's just not the right time. That's it. It's not the right time. Now, all of this you're doing is certainly helping you get to where you need to be. And I'll push that along. I'll promulgate that. But it's not just that. Just enjoy the time right now. Like, spend the time on yourself. Enjoy the time. Make the best life you can now. We're not promised tomorrow.
That's not promised tomorrow. It's not a very Jewish belief.
It's not. I know.
It's not. Literally Yaakov and Esav, right? Yaakov knew how to play. Yaakov understood the powers of the long game. Esav wanted the now.
Right, but I think it's like this. Like, think about, let's say, you're going to a singles event. Going to like a.
Never been to one, by the way.
Oh, we gotta get you. We gotta get you to one. So you go into a singles event.
I'll go.
Oh, I've been to it. I've been to like 20, 30, 40 of them.
I'm a great wingman.
Yo, you'll come. I mean, you got to tell me. Oh, there's one. You know what? There's one coming up soon. There's a good advertisement right here. This way, maybe I'll put it on. I'm actually going to be there. I'm actually going to be by a singles event. Okay, 1 second, people. David, you never been to a singles?
Never been to a singles event. I'm telling you.
Not even like a. But you live on the Upper West Side, so that's kind of like a singles event every week.
It's an ecosystem. But I haven't been to an event that has been advertised as a singles event.
Oh man, I don't even know if I have it, but it's February. So, here it is.
Nobody's ever said a good word about singles event. I've never heard anyone be like, "I had a great time at a singles event."
Oh, I did. I had a great. I'll tell you why. Because well, first of all, you clearly haven't been listening to the podcast.
Oh, I've been listening
or you don't remember. I was going to say like 89 episodes. I think that was when we did that. So when you go to singles event, you go make friends. That's all. If you just go and make friends, you'll have a good time.
I have friends.
It's a very small chance that you're going to actually find. But there is one at every event I've been to. There's always been one. There's always been one.
I'm saying that seems like a really interesting way to allocate your resources.
Yeah, pretty much. Dude, there's sometimes, look, sometimes I'll sound Pollyannish, and then sometimes I'm going to be the biggest what's it, sad Sally about this, or like have like skepticism on it. Sometimes it's just very skeptical. But okay, here, people, Jewish Divine Soulmate singles event, February 6th. Avery and IJ will be there for Machmir singles. Okay, whatever. For Jewish singles, forget about the Machmir part. You're a religious person, so I don't think. And I'm wearing a white shirt today. I had a business
look
meeting.
yeshivish.
No. I don't. Okay, look, I take it as a compliment. However I look. But I'm literally just wearing a white shirt today because we had a client meeting. That's it. Like, I don't do that. My barber is in yeshiva week, so I can't get it. That literally, you've seen me.
Try explaining that to somebody who doesn't get the world.
They don't
My
get that.
barber is in yeshiva week.
He's in yeshiva week. He's away and whatever. Okay, so anyway, people contact JDS Shadchanim, jdsshadchanim@gmail.com. jdsshadchanim@gmail.com. And I don't actually know if I'll be there because I haven't gotten the confirmation yet. But they took my money.
But they're advertising you. They're advertising.
No, they're not. I did one for them.
Okay.
I did one for them.
Got it.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's see. There goes my credulity. But let's see. Okay. Okay, a few minutes left. My point before was like, you're still 28, and I hate when old people used to tell me stuff, so I don't want to make it like that. Like, I'm just kind of, you're young, and no, like, you'll hit a certain age and you're going to be like, okay, I get what they meant when I wasn't looking for it, because you're just at some point you're going to be mentally like done. I'm like, you're done, and you'll see you're going to be spending money on yourself, and you're going to be treating yourself very differently from than you were, as opposed to now, which is, by the way, a really great place to be in, like, just focused on the mental health. So that's a really big, it's good, but you'll be able to, at some point, you're going to be able to, I don't want to say beat it, but you're going to not beating.
There's no beating it. You're
going to be at a peaceful mind, a real peaceful mindset, and be like, oh, I get it when they said, when I wasn't looking for it, that's when it came. But I will let you know how this works, because I don't know. It hasn't come around.
Listen, that's part of it. Like, dealing with mental health issues and having to explain to other people is a massive, massive part that holds me back. It is the hardest thing in my life and I go back and forth in my head, and I've spoken about it with dear friends of mine who have provided good counter arguments, but it comes down to, do I want to subject what I know goes on in my head, and when you zoom out, is probably what goes on in a lot of people's heads, to somebody else. And then the counter argument is, why do you think that you get to make that decision for other people? Why don't you show people who you are and let them make that decision? It's a really good point. It's a great point.
Yeah, well, that
makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, the issue,
but I don't do it.
The issue is that you have people who dump their mental health crap on you. So I don't want to say mental health, but their instability and their just effed upness on you. That's the problem.
Well, does
that make any sense?
They dump their problems on you.
Even more than that. Not just someone who dumps a problem.
Give me an example. Or an illustration to understand.
I'd have to think of a really good illustration. Something recently happened. Let me think. I was just saying something before. I just said something before, right? Let me think something else. No. So I would say I could try to draw I try to depict this, but I think there are people like you and me who are, and whoever's probably listening, who are like, I'm making a commitment to mental health. I want to live a good life. I want to get to a place of just peacefulness in my mind, serenity, and we know and we believe we could get there. There are other people, especially in the Frum community, and maybe in the modern Orthodox community, I don't know, actually, you'll tell me, I don't know. I'm sure there probably are, but who will probably kind of laugh and, it's mental, you people with the mental health, your generation with the mental health. And they just don't understand. They just don't understand. So they may do something, and they're doing something because they themselves have mental health issues, but they weren't able to treat it. They're not able to treat it. That's, I think, a case where you have a right to just shit on them. Like, go, dude, just bring it up, attack them, explain to them. Just explain, do even a nice way. Just explain to them, like, hey, this is a mental health issue of mine, Be abrasive and brash with them.
conveying it as a mental health issue may be the problem because you're not speaking the language that they understand.
They won't. They're definitely not gonna.
I've done it with people who originally. I've gotten into many conversations with people who couldn't understand it, and all you have to do is find a way in their brain. You don't have to get them to agree with you.
I thought of an example.
Okay.
I was by a friend of mine's Shabbos meal. Okay, old school family, and the son. Obviously, when you're bringing friends, you're going to talk about things. So he brings up something, and then his father asked him something about that, and this my friend who's the son goes, "Father, that's a boundary for me." And he goes, "Boundary? What is that? A mental? What are you? One of those mental nuts?" That's perfect example. Like that's how people look at it. That's how people, and by the way, it's bothersome. I'm like,
it can be, but you have to understand, you have to accept and have to have compassion for those people that
for even them.
Everybody,
tough.
the people that you don't want to show compassion to, even they get compassion. Everybody's got to get it.
That's true. It's like, they go when they go low, you go high.
I don't know about any of that. I just believe that the people that you don't want to show compassion to, if you can show compassion to them, that's how you've really grown and shown enlightenment. Doing something that goes against your initial nature and being able to just show that to them in the hardest. If you can do it in the easy times, anybody can do it then. But if you can do it in the hard times, and everybody wants to preach empathy and compassion and love and self-love, and don't get me started on the whole self-love campaign. Drives me bananas. That self-love stuff drives me bananas. I think it's gotten hijacked, but I really do believe that you have to be able to show people compassion, even if you don't believe in what they're selling. And believe me, I have a lot of qualms and a lot of issues with the mental health community and a lot of the work that they've done in terms of...
And accomplished.
No, I don't have a problem with a lot of their accomplishments, but a lot of the things that are being talked about in the mental health community, I don't necessarily agree with. But I understand for where I want the movement to go. I have to also understand that to humble myself and be like, maybe I don't always know what's best for the mental health community and for the larger conversation. I also think sometimes you have to go through a lot of pain to get to the profit, to get to the place where you want to be at. And I think it's overall better for us to be having all these conversations. You may not like all the conversations. You may vehemently disagree with everything that I've possibly said tonight. But if I've made you think,
that's worth it.
If I've challenged an idea that you've had, that's part of the conversation. And I'm not an authority. I never ever want to be an authority in this space. I just want to be a guy who's willing to get on a platform, on and off of a platform, and have a conversation. I'm going to learn from you. You're going to learn from me. And at the end of the day, my hope and my dream is for the conversations to build to a place where eventually we're in a place where mental health will not even be referred to as mental health. We'll just call it health.
Yes.
When we get one of my closest friends before I started my podcast, I was talking to him. He's in very corporate and he was in banking, and we were just having a conversation. I was very much more optimistic about like where we were, and he goes, until I can go into my HR's office and tell them I need to go home because of a mental health issue in the sense of that, and I can do that without fear of backlash or being looked at. We're not there yet. But if you go into any corporate office, especially nowadays, and you look sick, they'll send you home. Yeah. But if you're not,
my office, they'll laugh at you.
Right.
It's
No, I'm saying in the corporate.
I'm not in a corporate office.
Right. I assume you're in.
I mentioned one time in the podcast there was a guy I was working a huge big corporation, and someone died, and they said, they told everyone, HR emailed and called everyone, said, please go home and take the rest of the day off. No penalties, nothing. Right. For sure, it traumatized people.
I'm saying people do not believe, but until you can you feel comfortable taking that same mental health day should be the same thing as a sick day. And until
that'd be great if you could have some.
Then true, I'm saying I know,
I do that anyway.
A lot of people are doing that. A lot of companies are now giving off mental health days.
Yeah, I would tell people you could use your sick days. And just have your therapist or mental health counselor, whomever, obviously got to be licensed. Yeah, just have them write you a note. Say,
if your company
I consulted with IJ, and he needed a mental health day. He had some mental health issues he had to work out. absolutely should count as a sick day. Absolutely.
And people need to be able to show compassion.
Would you ever try that before? By the way,
That's
a good idea.
I've taken a mental health day before in my past, and I don't refer to it as a mental health day.
I'm not say the health day.
I just needed a day off.
You needed a day. You needed a day to yourself.
I could not go. It's because I could not go to work today, and I'm somebody who, especially in my current job, I don't miss days. I'm there, and even if when I was sick and I was taking a sick day, I'm working from home. It's just I have that drive in me to work. I'm worried. I am always, even if it's phantom, somebody's going to take my job. If I'm not doing the work, I need to be outworking somebody because somebody else is doing that work. So if I can outwork them, is that always so healthy? So is that always so healthy to do? Not always, but I do believe that in terms of figuring out where we go in this landscape of mental health conversations, I think the best thing to do, and we're still in it, is just to have them. Because people are going through, imagine, because you're not, sorry if I'm breaking this to you for the first time, you're not special. You're not.
Oh, man, Mr. Rogers.
You're not special. You're not the first person to have anxious thoughts, and it doesn't even have to invalidate how you feel, but you can get through them. There are tools and things that are available for you that can help you manage and get to a place. The first time, if you've never been through a depression stage, or if you've never had depression, and I'll tell you this much, I've had a few different bouts, thank God, not in a very long time, but it's very, very hard. And I'm talking about I'm not talking about waking up one day and not feeling it. I'm talking about clinical depression. If you look up the DSM-5, the DSM-5, I'm talking about you wake up and you've had more days than not that you felt the certain requirements. If you've ever had that, you know it is not something where someone's just like, you just need to get up and get out and go do it. Those are things that can be very helpful to get out of it. But when you're in it, very, 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 very hard. And those are times where we need to blend having compassion and helping other people. We need to understand that somebody could be really suffering, and the answer that you're going to tell them, and maybe the thing that they actually need to do, is to get up out of bed and go for a walk. Take that first step. Go to the gym. Eat a healthy meal.
Or just sit on the couch. Like, I'm also a big advocate. Just sit on the couch. Don't go anywhere. Order Uber Eats. Treat yourself.
Self-care.
Yeah.
Self-care comes
like
in many
that's
different
good
forms.
Too. That's a good too.
Same, but when you're in that, when you're in the shit and you're really going through it, and sometimes maybe you can't leave the house today, but can you get out of bed? Can you walk around the room? Is that something you did today that you didn't do yesterday? It's about building. Life's really just about building momentum. My rabbi in yeshiva stuck with me and will stick with me forever. Life's like an EKG exam. It has its ups and it has its downs.
Yeah, I love that.
And no matter
analogy.
what you try and do to it, you're going to have your ups and you're going to have your downs. How you choose to react to the ups and how is equal to how you're going to choose to react to your downs, and that's going to dictate the rest of your life and how you choose to be in it. There are people in this world that have all the money in the world and are unhappy. There are people that have barely get by and are happiest people in the world. So figure out what's valuable to you and understand.
And you have others also. And I know rich people who are happy too.
And there are rich people that are happy, but a lot of the rich people that are happy, it's not because of the money.
It's not right, exactly.
It's not about the money. It's about
they know how to get to that mindset.
It's the mindset that got the reason why they were. A lot of the reasons why you became rich could be the reason why you have awful mental health and maybe unhappy. And a lot of the reasons why you became rich might be the reasons why you're actually happy. It's because you knew how to treat people with respect. You had good self-confidence. You treated to give back. I mean, when you get to the top, to give back to other people, the acts of service is one of the best things you can do when you're down.
Acts of service. Yep.
It's not kindness. It's not how. It's something that I work on a lot because I need to actually probably focus a little bit more on myself as opposed to for other people. It's a distraction for me, but a lot of people I do think really will benefit a lot from getting out of their own head. It's not so. I don't think it's so healthy just to focus on yourself 24/7 all of the time. It's not healthy just to focus 100% on just getting.
Yeah, big problem daters have. Big problem, like because you can't do camp anymore. You can't do mentorship anymore. You're working like what could you do out there? I bumped into someone at the OU at the Orthodox Union, and I grabbed him, and I'm like, Yankala. I said, what are we doing for the single community? So he said, I have to follow up with him. Hopefully I'm like, dude, what are we doing? Seriously, like, let's get a trip or let's do some chesed. Come on. Like, what do you just drop us after college?
By the way, that's a great singles event.
Yeah.
Chesed opportunities.
Chesed thing. Yeah. Chesed opportunities. I think it would be cool.
Unbelievable. I think why
didn't you come to the Build the Bias, by the way? Build the Bias.
What's a build to buy
Build,
Shabbos?
whatever. We did a joint partnership with a nonprofit to do like a Shabbaton.
How much was the Shabbaton?
I think it was
There's your answer.
$325. Oh, it's too pricey. And you know what? I told the guy who with the OU, I'm like, OU has to cover this. Okay, anyway, David, where can the people find you?
If anybody's interested in talking or being a potential guest on the podcast, you can find me. I guess I have an Instagram. You can message me there. It's at Don't Worry About It Podcast. You can also email me at don'tworryaboutitpodcast@gmail.com. I do just have a final thought, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final story. There's one thing that I just wanted to share, and it perfectly encapsulates both sides of the dating and the mental health side of it. There was a girl that I was going out with. We were on our third date. Amazing first 2 dates. Some of the best dates I've ever had in my life. Awesome person. Really, really connected. And she was telling me on one, I think it was the second date that we were going on, we were talking about mental health. And I always struggle. Do I talk about the podcast? I try not to. I don't hide it. It's just not something.
It's
really, really tough for me. I don't like being in the spotlight. It's part of the reasons why the podcast has been very tough. But she was telling me about one of her friends. And one of her really good friends was dating a guy, and the guy they dated, they got engaged. A week before the wedding, the guy snapped. He just had a mental breakdown, and the engagement broke. And for her, she never could shake that. And it ended up after the third date, there was nothing wrong. She just, because we'd spoken about it, I think on the second or third date, just talked a little bit about anxiety, and I spoke a little bit about when we were going through like my history. I was like, I had this little bout, like I have anxiety. I'm interested in mental health. And for her, when she heard that, no matter how much fun she had or how good of a connection we had, for her, that her friend having that experience really stuck with her. And when I found out through a person who set us up that was the reason, when she ended, I was like really, really upset. Not at her, just upset at just the general situation. It like made me mad. I was like, there's nothing I could have done. Maybe I could have waited. I thought should I not have said anything? Should I have waited? And then after like a day or two, I started to like think about it again. And I was like, I need to have compassion for this person.
Yeah.
How much that hurt for her, and how much that's sticking with her, and how she's I hope that she's found I hope she's found success and happiness. But like to be able to have something so traumatic that didn't even happen to you to affect you to that capacity, that must be really, really hard for her.
Yeah. Both sides earn support. You know. It sucks. It just sucks to be that. And if someone makes a decision, yeah, absolutely.
And how hard it is for people to date. You know, we talk about just go get married. It's really hard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, go get married. Go get married. Speaking of special people, like you said before, I have a little song for our little. Because you mentioned special. Everyone's special. You know this song?
I don't. Was this taught in schools in Lakewood?
Mr. Rogers.
Oh, I've heard of Mr. Rogers.
All right. David Izso, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, you told people where they could find you. You're doing good work, man. Keep it up.
So are you.
Oh, thank you. Come on. I'm being a goofball. All right, at Nobody Talks Shidduchim. We're on Locals, shidduchim.locals.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Linktree, TikTok at Shidduchim, Instagram at Nobody Talks Shidduchim. Peace out, people.